When I was struggling with sleep, I used to ask myself, did I do something wrong? Or why me? Why am I struggling with my sleep? And so many of my clients ask me the same, like, why am I in this situation? Have I done something wrong? Am I more prone to be struggling with insomnia? And the answer is maybe. Yes, there are certain personality traits that make us more prone to insomnia, but it is not the only reason why we end up struggling. My name is Fiona. I'm a recovered chronic insomniac turned holistic sleep coach. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 P's of insomnia, which are the 3 main reasons that contribute to why we have insomnia and why we are kept in that cycle. So what even are the factors that make us more prone to struggle with our sleep? And I'm going to try my best not to stumble on my words here, but number 1, we have predisposed factors. These are factors that are based on who we are as people, our personality traits, how we normally approach problems. And believe it or not, this has more to do with our insomnia struggle than we think it does. Number 2, we have precipitating factors. These are the factors such as initial triggers associated with sleep disruption that kind of trigger us into falling into that loop of sleeplessness. And then number 3, we have the perpetuated factors, which are the factors based on a day-to-day basis that almost perpetuate the cycle of insomnia. These are our attitudes and behaviors towards sleep that ultimately keep us stuck. Let's break these down one by one because they're each individually important and also contribute to why we're struggling to insomnia as a whole, like as a whole holistic experience. So what are each of these individual factors in more depth? And to start with, we have our predisposition. This is whether or not we are more prone to be struggling with insomnia. And I feel like this is incredibly important because when we recognize that we are more prone to be struggling with insomnia, it also helps us understand how we're tackling insomnia as well. So people who are more prone to insomnia are individuals who are perfectionists, type A personality, go-getters. They like control, they see a problem and they just tackle it. And absolutely every single person that I have spoken to in my coaching practice and also me in my own journey, we are these people. We like control. We see a problem and we're like, okay, right, I'm going to fix this. And the reason why this ends up being an issue when it comes to insomnia is because we see sleep as a problem that needs to be fixed and we deploy our usual tendencies. Sleep's an issue. I need to make sure that this is fixed. I'm going to research it, control it, take all the medication, follow all the tips. I'm going to do CBTI perfectly. But when it comes to sleep, this often backfires because the way that we approach our sleep is not through control. It is not through a checklist. It is through allowing. So this predisposition to insomnia, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. But if anything, let it empower you to see that this problem with sleep is solved completely differently to how you have solved every other issue. Use your perfectionism and your desire for control for other elements of life where you can control things. But when it comes to sleep, allow it to also teach you where to release and relax that desire for control out of outcomes that were never and have never been in your control to begin with. So yes, you may be more prone to insomnia, but that's not the only reason we end up struggling, which is why it is also important to recognize the second 2 P's in insomnia, the second 2 factors that end up contributing to why we're stuck in this loop. Factor number 2 is the precipitating factors or the triggers as to why we struggled with our sleep to begin with. This is why we experience sleep loss. For me, it was a change in environment paired with stress and moving in with an ex-partner. There were so many different things. I was not used to sharing my bed every single night, and that caused me to not sleep very well. I, of course, then reacted negatively, which we'll get to. But that being said, we often attribute our insomnia to being rooted in our past. So yes, these precipitating factors are important as to why we are stuck in insomnia, but they're not the reason why you're still stuck. Insomnia can be caused for so many different reasons. It can be stress, it can be a change in environment, it can be noise. For many women, and so many women that I work with, it's hormonal changes, it's dealing with a new life, a baby. And these are all factors that are just part of life and are bound to disrupt our sleep. I'm saying this because yes, precipitating factors are important as to why we end up struggling, but they're not the only reason why we struggle. In fact, if anything, I think that this second P, or the second factor in insomnia struggle is the least important out of all three factors that you need to be aware of. And this all ties us into the third P of insomnia, which is perpetuating factors. These are the attitudes, the beliefs, and the behaviors associated with trying to chase sleep, which ultimately cause us to be stuck in the cycle. And if you're unsure as to what insomnia even is or why you're even in insomnia to begin with, then I do encourage you to check out my 5 Days to Better Sleep email newsletter. I've linked that here below, where I break down what insomnia is, why you're stuck in the struggle, and also what you can do about it to start breaking that cycle today and slowly starting to reclaim your sleep. What are these perpetuating factors? And I know you may be thinking, what do you mean that I could be doing something wrong? And I just want to start by saying that that is not your fault. We live in a world where we are told that sleep can be controlled and optimized, and that if we do not sleep a perfect 8 hours and uninterrupted, something bad is going to happen. Well, let me tell you, that is not true. Sleep is a completely passive process. You cannot control it, you cannot optimize it, and no, nothing bad is going to happen if 8 hours is not achieved every single night. In fact, sleep is something that adapts and changes depending on how much we're sleeping, depending on our stress levels, depending on the period of our lives, depending on, for women, the period of the month, and also whether or not they're pregnant or not. So there's just so many factors that actually affect our sleep, and our desire to chase and control our sleep and optimize it and actually achieve those 8 hours are the root of all the perpetuating factors. These perpetuating factors are basically anything that you believe that needs to happen in order for sleep to be achieved. And they keep us in the cycle because sleep can't be controlled, it often backfires. So every single time you're going to try and control your sleep, you're ultimately monitoring it, and sleep happens in the absence of you watching it. It happens in the absence of effort. But when you're trying to make some kind of effort in order for sleep to happen, your mind is starting to say, okay, there's something wrong here. I need to protect my human from wakefulness or from what will happen if sleep doesn't happen. The problem with that is that when we are stuck in fear and when we're stuck in our fight or flight kind of response from our nervous system, we're in the opposite state that we want to be in order for sleep to happen. Sleep is completely passive. It only happens when we're in rest and digest. It happens without you watching it, without you waiting for it, without you trying to control it. So the more you actually try and do those things, the more you're actually perpetuating the cycle of insomnia. So I would say that out of all three Ps, the most important are the first and last factor, the predisposition to insomnia, and also the perpetuating factors. And I would ultimately recommend that you forget about the precipitating or the trigger of insomnia, as that's not going to be very important or relevant for you moving forwards. I do want to briefly talk about how our predisposition and the perpetuating factors also match together so that you can be more informed as to how to approach your insomnia recovery moving forwards. So what do these factors have to do with each other? And this is where the predisposition tends to be strongly tied to the precipitating factors, and that is because we are perfectionists and we like control. So of course, as soon as sleep becomes an issue, we tend to optimize and try and control it, which actually leads to these perpetuating factors. If this feels correct, and this feels like, yes, this sounds like me, this sounds like, yes, I've been trying to control and optimize my sleep, I want to encourage you to try and see insomnia a little bit differently. Number one, insomnia is not a problem that needs to be solved. Try and see this completely differently to any other problem that you have ever seen in life, meaning you are not trying to perfect your sleep. You're not trying to control it. And ultimately, the counterpart or the counter position for that will help you moving forwards is how can you keep coming back to the things that are inside of our control? We end up suffering, we end up struggling with our sleep because it is so deeply uncomfortable not to be able to control it. But when you keep reframing and almost like changing your perspective and coming back to the things that are inside of your control, trust me, you're taking back control over the narrative and you're creating an environment where sleep comes to you in the absence of effort. Number two, because we tend to be controlling and perfectionists and sleep often backfires from our efforts, I'm going to invite you and encourage you to truly explore self-kindness and compassion. You are human. You're not a robot, you're not broken, and you're not in this situation because you have done something wrong. You're in this situation because your body is trying to protect you. And it doesn't need you to optimize and try and control this. And because you can't control it, it doesn't mean that you have done something wrong. Because of our predisposition for insomnia, this also contributes to us feeling stuck in the struggle because we internalize not being able to fix our sleep as a failure, like we've done something wrong. Like this is a sentence for life. When you start seeing yourself as a little bit more human, as someone who deserves tenderness, someone who is able to sometimes not show up at 100%, trust me, when you remove that pressure from yourself and the pressure from sleep, things get so much easier. And honestly, sleep is so much more likely to happen. That is all for today's video. I hope that in you knowing this, it just empowers you a little bit more. Insomnia is so much about education and understanding this cycle. So the more you know and understand, and the more you actually get to know yourself, the easier this journey gets. Not because we're trying to be perfect, but because we are accepting and honoring our own humanity. If you have absolutely any questions about sleep or about something you've been struggling with, please go ahead and drop those in the comment section below, and I promise that I will get back to you.